Welcome back in, flag throwers. We got another special. That is right, friend of the program, Connor Newcomb is back. What's going on, Connor?
Hey guys, it's great to be back. I wish the Orioles were playing better, which I'm sure we'll get to. I wish it wasn't 1,000 degrees in Baltimore for the last week, but otherwise things are going pretty well.
Terrible.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we miss having your big baseball brain on the pod, so we had to have you back on for the people. Just as time as baseball's heating up, we got the All-Star game, we got the trade deadline, and all that stuff we're going to get into. But first, people, while you're here, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It is absolutely paramount for our growth, so we are extremely grateful if you're willing to do that for us. We really appreciate it. But Connor, you already mentioned it in your intro. The hell happened? We were supposed to win the World Series this year.
A lot happened. A lot didn't happen, I guess. This team is, what's nice is, we're finishing up, here as we record. It's the last day of June. They got one more game in June. The team this month has looked like, despite some still bad losses, has looked like the team we thought we were going to get. But when you bury yourself for the first 2 months of the year, if they play like this for the next 3 months, they probably will make the playoffs. But you know how hard it is to play at this kind of pace for an entire season? You're going to go through another valley, and they basically have left themselves zero room for error at all. Like I talked about this when they blew the 8-0 lead in Tampa a couple weeks back. I was like, if you're 10 games over 500 and you do that, it stinks. It's probably tough in the clubhouse, but you've left yourself some room to do that. Mm-hmm. When you're 10 games under and you take an 8-0 lead in the second inning, you've left yourself no room to lose that game. And I listened to John Mioli, who covers the team over at the Baltimore Banner, and the big thing he's been talking about the past couple of weeks is every win is nice, and they're playing better, and there's more wins, but every loss right now feels like 2 losses because they're so far behind that every loss just feels like it digs them deeper and deeper, and every win's like, well, that was nice, but we need 5 more of those in a row for it to even make a difference right now. And so, yeah, there was injuries, and there was terrible starting pitching, but when you dig yourself that big of a hole, it's just... It doesn't even feel like they've played as well as they have in June.
No,
like
it doesn't.
They've been one of the better teams in the American League in the month of June, and it doesn't even register because of how bad they were early in the year.
Man, you know the phrase, you can't win the pennant in April, but you can sure lose it, and the Orioles sure lost it. Yeah, it's absolutely tough. But yeah, I feel like every series, we're winning 2 out of 3, but then we lose the second game, and it's just like, oh God, here we go. But yeah, that 8-0 blown lead, man, that was a tough episode to listen to on the Locked On Orioles. So people that are here, please make sure you check out Connor on Locked On Orioles. That's what I'm referencing. But yeah, that going to work that day, listen to that episode. That was a tough episode to listen to.
Yeah, that was bad. Actually, on the July 1st episode that's coming out tomorrow as we record here, I'm doing the first half look back because even though what people consider the first half is split by the All-Star break, but really the Orioles played their 81st game over the weekend, so they've played technically half of the season. Figure it's a good time to look back at that stuff and kind of give out some awards. So, MVP and who's been their Cy Young and who's been their best reliever, but also best and worst loss. And a little taste of that one is blowing the 8-0 lead is the worst loss. I know they lost a game 24-2. I understand that. That game is one where you can turn it off in the third inning and just go do something else. When you're up 8-0 in the second, from the jump, you're like, this is going to be a big win over a division rival. And then that happens. That was clear for me, my pick for... There's been some bad losses. That was my clear pick for worst loss of the year.
Jordan, weren't you at that 24-2 loss?
Yeah, I was.
That is a rough one. That is a rough one to be in.
Yeah, that was a tough time for old Jordan. But, Jordan, if you want to go ahead and ask Connor the next question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So... Basically, what do you feel will happen to Mike Elias at the end of the season? Will his head roll?
No, I think he's going to get at least another year. I think what is really tough is this kind of happened to the Orioles back in 2018 when they basically plunged into the rebuild. Remember, Mike Elias was not the GM when they did their first big sell-off deadline. In 2018, it was the final year of Dan Duquette as the GM. It was the final year of Buck Showalter as the manager. And timing-wise, it just so happened that the Orioles had a lot of good players who were on expiring contracts. And if they weren't traded, they were not going to come back in free agency, and the Orioles were going to get absolutely nothing for them. Now, did the O's get a lot anyway? Not really. But the reason is because Dan Duquette was the one who executed that trade deadline, knowing that he was not going to have that job after the year. The only reason for him to do well at that deadline was to put it on a resume for his next GM job, which I don't think he really ever got.
I don't think he
that.
did either.
He worked in some front offices, but never got another GM job. And even at that point, if you're interviewing in the offseason, you can say, hey, remember 3 months ago I got prospects that were ranked this, this, and this. That doesn't really matter in the long term. It matters how they turn out 2, 3, 4 years down the road. So for Duquette, as long as he got some flashy names and guys who were ranked high, that's all he really needed to do. Had Elias been overseeing that 2018 deadline, I think it would have looked a lot different, because we're at the point where Dean Kramer is the only remaining player. The Orioles got like 15 prospects at that deadline.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Dean Kramer's the only remaining player who's pitching very well right now, but is the only one on the team from that deadline. And again, it's been 7 years, so it's been a little while. When you would say that fact like 3 years ago, it would hit a little harder. But still, that is where you put yourself in a tough spot, because as much as Elias said over the weekend, we're still not committed to going either way. We'll see where we're at the All-Star break, which gives them a couple of more weeks. I think we all know that at the very least the Orioles are going to be soft sellers. They're going to trade away some of their expiring contracts. Even if they buy as well, they're going to try and get something for some of these guys, like hopefully a healthy, again, Eflin or a Ryan O'Hearn or a Cedric Mullins that they may not be bringing back. I think they would like Elias to execute that plan, knowing that he's also going to be able to oversee the offseason and oversee next season. Mm-hmm. And while this has been really bad, it doesn't fully discount all the good that Mike Elias did since he took over. And I think he deserves an opportunity to take his first hit. This is really his first big hit, something that didn't go according to plan. Yes, the years of the rebuild, this team was atrocious, but
that was
to
planned,
be fair
though.
to him, that was the plan.
Yeah, that
they
was the
honestly
plan.
got better quicker than he thought, I think, in his plan. I don't think he thought by 2023 we would win the division and win 101 games. I don't think he thought the 2022 team would finish with a winning record. So they went even faster than I think he thought. This is the first, you could say, second half of last year. Yeah, but they were still a postseason team. Only 12 of the 30 teams in the league make it. You count that as a productive season. This is the first punch in the face he's taken. I think not just Mike Elias, but everybody in this position should be allowed one chance to punch back. If he doesn't punch back well this offseason and things start to go poorly, Elias could be gone before the next trade deadline. Mm-hmm. I think that's a total possibility. But I think he deserves a chance to right the wrongs this offseason.
Yeah, you ask Orioles Twitter, he should have been fired yesterday.
You ask Orioles Twitter, he should have been gone 4 years ago, at least some sections of it. So.
Twitter's not a real place anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's just crazy that we traded Manny Machado and all we got for it is a number 3 at best starter, all these years down the line. And Manny was at the peak of his powers too. We could have got whatever we wanted, and we got Dean Kramer. No disrespect to Dean, he's dealing, but not what you want for a Manny Machado type return. But yeah, Mike Elias, you're right. He did do a lot of things correctly, but man, I think it's just because expectations were so high. I think that's the real bummer. When we had you on for the preview beforehand, we were like, hey, we might have a parade and Tyler O'Neill might opt out. Oh boy, how's that going? Yeah.
He'll be an Oriole. He'll be an Oriole. If he doesn't medically retire because he keeps getting injured, he'll be an Oriole for the next 2 years as well.
Oh yeah, we're going to get into some of the trade deadline stuff, but another thing I wanted to get into, and you kind of touched on this when you were talking about your hitting prospects, but I don't know if you remember my UNC fandom, but man, another thing, what the hell happened to Vance Honeycutt? What did they do to my boy? He was hitting 30-some homers and stealing 30 bags for North Carolina. He goes to freaking high A, which isn't even considered the equivalent of college pitching, and he can't even bat his weight.
Yeah, I think it's less of what they've done to him and more what they haven't done yet. For Vance Honeycutt, the biggest issue for him in Aberdeen this year has been what we knew the biggest issue was, and that is there had never been a player who swung and missed as much as Honeycutt did in college that got drafted in the first round. That was a new record that the Orioles set, at least since we've had that kind of college data, which basically goes back not before 2000, but 15 to 20 years-ish.
Right.
That's the first guy who had that high of a swing and miss that went in the first round because the defense is elite, the speed is elite, the power is elite. All the other tools were there for Vance Honeycutt. It was just this giant gaping hole in his profile, and the Orioles thought, we're never going to make him into this big-time contact hitter who never strikes out. That's impossible. We think we can cut it down enough to where the rest of his tools can play. And it's been less than a year since he got into this system, so it's not time to judge how that's going yet. However, I think what's more concerning to me, people are obviously concerned, he's got almost a 40% strikeout rate in high A. 40% doesn't even play in the big leagues. He's in high A. Is it going to be 60% when he's in the big leagues? I'm not as concerned about that because, again, that's the thing. It's going to take a long time to fix. The concerning part is that, yeah, he's hitting 185. That's not great either. But when he's making contact, he's not doing damage. He's not doing the damage he did at UNC. He's got 2 home runs, I believe, at least the last time I checked this year. That's not what you want. If he's going to be hitting 185 this year, hitting around 200 and still having those high strikeout rates, that's fine as long as the O's are working on it, which they clearly are, and he's still hitting for power. When it's, okay, he's swinging and missing a lot, but when a guy makes a mistake on a hanging slider, Vance is hitting at 450 feet. That's what we saw at UNC. That's not what we're seeing right now. I don't want to dive too far into that because it could be there is so much they're having him work on in these at-bats that it's making it tough for him to get to his power because he's trying to adjust so much from at-bat to at-bat, and he's really focusing on things. There was a good story in the Baltimore Banner on Monday about how the Orioles worked with Trevor Rogers when he came over. Obviously, he's pitching a lot better now since he's gotten to the majors. And a lot of things they talked about is when Rogers finally got healthy from that knee issue in the offseason, he made his first AAA start this year as he was trying to get back to the big leagues. His first AAA start was terrible. And people were like, oh, here we go. Nothing worked. And Rogers talked in that story and was basically like, the only thing I was worried about in that first start was the mechanics of my delivery. I wasn't worried about pitch mix. I wasn't worried about mixing speeds. I wasn't worried about location. I wasn't worried about velocity. He said I was so hyper-focused on my delivery because we wanted to make sure that was okay and the knee hadn't messed it up that I wasn't actually trying to get guys out. I was just trying to get comfortable over 50, 60 pitches. He realized he was comfortable and then went out in the next start and pitched much better. So you don't really know what these guys are actually working on because at the end of the day, the minor leagues are about development and not winning and losing games. And especially a guy who has a big development hole when you draft him and everybody knows what you're going to be working on with him, you never really know what they're working on. But again, the issue is there shouldn't be something he's working on so precisely that he can't launch a hanging slider every once in a while. And that is what I think is concerning. I will give it another full offseason. I want to see him get to AA because that's when you really start facing legitimate pitchers that could be somewhat close to the big leagues. That will probably happen at the end of this year, if not early next year. Then I think you can really start to at least come up with some takes about that pick. Less than a year from the draft, I'm going to kind of let it play out. But I think, the swing and miss that's still there, it was always there. It's not a big deal. The 2 homers, I mean, there's something there, I think, that's just to monitor on him.
Yeah, because selfishly, I would like him to get to AA just so I can go say what's up to him. But realistically, as a former baseball player yourself, he's probably just thinking too much in the box. He's thinking, I got to do this with my elbow, I got to do this with my hands, I got to do this with my legs, and then the fastball's blowing right by him. So I'm sure he's probably just thinking too much, and eventually it'll just come second nature. But we were getting into some trade deadline stuff earlier, but one piece that was considered it for other deadlines. Heston Kjerstad, is he still salvageable at any point? Because I feel like we missed his window in terms of trading him for high value, and he got his runway, and he unfortunately did not bring it. I love Silent J. He my fiance and I, we have a soft spot for him because of his myocarditis and all that stuff. So we really want him to succeed, but man, it was a tough watch towards the end there. So is he still salvageable, whether trade value wise or just playing good for the Orioles?
Yeah, they should not trade him right now. That's, I think, the number one thing. You're trading him at much lower value than he had at any point really in the past 2 years. So that would not be smart for the Orioles. And at the end of the day, you're going to be probably without Cedric Mullins and Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano after this season. Cowser's going to move to center. I could not tell you what 2026 for Tyler O'Neill will look like. It would be stupid to try and predict what that's going to look like. So you're going to need some outfielders, and they're going to sign one pretty clearly this offseason, but there's still an opening for him to play next year. And you just need him to get right. The defense, I've said my piece on his defense. It's metrically bad. And eye test, he was the worst defensive outfielder in Major League Baseball this year before the Orioles sent him to AAA. for a while, it looked like he was going to be an Anthony Santander type defender. He was never going to win a Gold Glove. He was never going to make the highlight reel play, but he was going to make the plays that needed to be made out there, and it was going to be helpful to play next to a guy like Cedric Mullins who can run down the stuff he can't get to. That's exactly what Santander did for 6 years. Kjerstad seemed to be getting there. He was getting better and better defensively, and then he just fell off a cliff this year. And I really can't understand why, because he has sneaky speed. It's not like he's slow out there. He just looks like he doesn't know how to run. Like
you called him a
Jackson
gazelle
Holliday,
earlier.
I believe. I believe this offseason, as funny as it sounds for as good of an athlete as he is, I believe Jackson Holliday spent some time with a running coach this offseason just to like get his form down a little bit better because he wanted to steal more bases. He's got to send that guy's number to Heston Kjerstad because, I mean, Heston just, I know he's a bigger guy, so it's never going to look as graceful. You know, it's kind of a big, lumbering power hitter. But he's got speed, and if you can run correctly, he can at least make some better routes to balls and run the bases a little bit better. And he just, I don't know. I mean, people make fun of the way Pete Alonso runs, but it's worse than that. He just kind of flails, and his body looks stiff. And you always thought, okay, that could be the issue, but as long as he's hitting, he'll have a place on this team. Well, then he stopped hitting. And I think that's going to be maybe easier to fix because he's done that for a while in his career. He's been able to hit, but just, you know, all the hard hit rates going down, the chase rates going up. I don't know. He needs to swing less, to be honest. He just swings at everything, in the zone, out of the zone, whatever. And it used to work because he would hit pitches everywhere when guys weren't throwing 98 with incredible cut. Now they are. And when he could swing at a pitch below his knees in Double-A and hit it out because it was a big loopy curveball that wasn't ready for the big leagues, now it's a ridiculous 90-mile-per-hour slider in the big leagues, and that's a swing and a miss. That's not a double down the line like it was 2 levels before. So they need to get that out of him. I still think, I mean, he's going to get at-bats for the rest of this year. Like, there's absolutely, especially if they clear some guys out at the deadline, he's going to be back in the big leagues to get another chance. He's going to get chances in 2026. But, you know, if we get to this point next year, and even if he's in the big leagues, it's still looking rough when he's up here, I have no idea what they do at that point because he's really lost his trade value. He's getting older at that point. It could just be a miss. And that's always possible, right? The Orioles haven't had a lot of misses with their top picks so far. Elias has done a fantastic job with Matt Blood. He could be a miss, but it's frustrating because we saw him have early success in the big leagues. Like, you know, in the time that it took Gunnar and Adley and Kobe Mayo and Colton Cowser, when they struggled early in their careers, Heston really didn't have that initially. He came up immediately in 2023 at the end of the year, and he hit the ball well. And when he could actually stay on the field last year, he hit the ball well. And so he didn't have that initial where it was like, oh, is he ever going to snap out of this like we've had for a lot of Orioles prospects? He's kind of doing the flip side. He came up and hit, and now we're seeing the extended run. We're like, finally, Heston's going to get his chance. Santander's gone. O'Neal's on the injured list. Cowser's hurt. Like, he's going to play every single day. He's going to show the hitter he can be, and he's going to be set in this lineup. We can forget about Ryan O'Hearn once we trade him, and we'll be good. And now it's like, is Dylan Beavers just going to pass him in the pecking order?
Yeah.
We'll see once Beavers gets his chance. I mean, I'm not going to judge that till Beavers gets a chance to hit in the big leagues, but that's where we're at right now. Like, Kjerstad could just kind of be a bench bat until he fizzles out. I think that's possible. I'm not going to say that's going to happen because he still has a lot of skill, but that is quite a drop-off to have happen to you when you get your chance, and to fall on your face like that is definitely tough.
Yeah, there was a point on your show where I could tell you were fed up with him because you said, oh, shocker, shocker, another weak rollover to second base.
And it's because I expect more out of him, right? There's guys that have been on this team for years, that's when they were bad, where it's just like, I expect him to roll over to second base. You can see in Heston that that's not a guy who should be doing that every time he goes up there, and something's clearly wrong mechanically. I mean, you say hopefully not injury-wise, but he's had so many of them that there could be other stuff lingering there as well that's keeping him down. Like, we'll see, you know, and I'm not going to take too much from the stats in AAA. It's more about what they're working on rather than the stats. And when Michael I starts to bring his name up again in conversation, that's when you'll know he's getting close to coming back at some point. I mean, it could be soon. The Orioles had to make that roster move with Dylan Carlson going back to AAA earlier this week. It could be Heston who comes back once Westberg's all good to go and they don't need Emmanuel Rivera anymore. It could be Dylan Beavers as well, but it could be Kjerstad getting another shot, at least until the All-Star break, just to give him another run here. they'd love to have him produce, but if he doesn't, they might have to figure out something else. But if they don't have Kjerstad or O'Neill that they can count on, then it's like, are you trying to bring back Ryan O'Hearn even if you trade him? Are you trying to go after other guys? Like they're not in the same spot they were because they thought Kjerstad would be the easy heir apparent to either O'Hearn or Santander, and now he doesn't feel like he's the one for either of those guys.
Yeah, a couple quick hitters. I just want to take a victory lap for you and I because before the season we were making fun of how people were judging Jackson Holliday and how he was a bust before he could even buy alcohol. Now look at him. Just like we said it would.
All-star.
Yeah, exactly. And then another piece of news just broke while we were recording here. I don't know if you got the notification, but Zach Eflin officially got put on the injured list. We saw this coming, but it's official, and they recalled Brandon Young.
Yeah, I mean, something's not... He went on the IL with that lat injury, right? He was great down the stretch last year. He had 3 vintage, awesome Zach Eflin starts to begin this year, and then he goes down with the lat issue. He misses a month. He comes back. He's kind of very up and down for those first couple of weeks when he's back. We see some good Eflin. We see some bad. And it's just kind of been bad recently. And, of course, he mentioned with his start on Sunday, he felt the issue in the bullpen. But he was like, I can throw a pitch. I can't put my team in this spot. And he put him in a spot anyway by giving up 4 runs and then having to leave after 1 inning anyway. Hopefully he can get it figured out. It's with his arm angle. I talked about this on my Monday episode. It's just dropping and dropping and dropping. Not even ever since the lat issue, but really over the past couple of years, but specifically since he came back from the lat issue. He's identified that it's a problem. He's talked publicly about how his arm has dropped too much and needs to get it back up, and he can't seem to find it, and that's where you worry about it being injury. And that's where it makes a lot more sense that he's on the IL, because when you identify something like an arm angle, it's hard to precisely say, I'm going to move my arm angle up 4 degrees. Like, that's really hard to just go throw a ball.
It's not that
and do
easy.
It. Like, you need some slow motion cameras, you need some work, you need some feel stuff. But if Eflin identified it about a month ago and it's still dropping, that tells me he's trying to get it higher, and something in his body is not allowing him to do that. And the fact that the lat and now the lower back, kind of both back area, different areas of the back, but both kind of back-ish injuries for this bigger, taller guy, that spells some issues. I honestly don't think they're going to be able to trade him at this point. If they are, it's not going to be for much. And so it's probably more worth it to just hold on to him and let him pitch the innings he can down the stretch to help you cover some innings once you're out of it, and then kind of let him walk and see who wants to take a chance on him. Because having the back issues, having the stuff go down, having the results go down for a guy who was more of a pitch-to-contact guy anyway and not a huge strikeout pitcher is tough for him. Luckily, he already got his nice little contract with the Rays, but there was a chance, 6 months ago where it's like Eflin's going to get another contract that's even bigger than the one he just got. Mm-hmm. And now it's like it's probably just going to be somebody bringing him in on a 1-year deal next year to see if he can get healthy and regain the momentum that he had with the Orioles last season.
Yeah, I wanted to be the ones to give him that big contract. He's been awesome for us. I swear, ever since he got injured, he hasn't been the same.
It's like a month and a half ago, I was talking about, let's just offer Eflin, 3 years, $60 million right now and force him to say no to it. Just like, get him back here, have a great number 2 or 3 starter as the rest of the rotation gets healthier. And now looking at it, it's like, you do not offer that guy $60 million until you know what's going on with that back long term. So probably a good thing they didn't do it, but it felt like an easy decision to make just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine. I really think he never fully healed. I think he was trying to rush back because he knew, we're about to lose the pennant if I don't get back here. So, yeah, Jordan's got a couple quick questions for you before we get into our little game that we play.
Yeah, so you touched on it a little bit more, earlier in the episode, but I guess with this question, just, go a little bit more in depth. But what does a successful second half of the season look like for the O's?
Yeah, some of it depends on who's here, right? Like, if they go on a run and get close to 500 and they kind of hold pat at the deadline, I don't even know what success looks like. At that point, it has to be making the playoffs. Because if you don't trade anyone, you got to be sure you have a chance to make the playoffs. So at that point, it's making the playoffs. The realist in all of us says that's probably not going to happen at this point as they sit 11 games under 500 almost in July. So really, it's going to be about, can the guys who get playing time because of the trades, say you deal O'Hearn, or a group, a subset of, it's probably not going to be all these guys, but a subset of O'Hearn, Mullins, Sugano, Eflin, Morton, Dominguez, Soto. Kittredge, Laureano maybe fall in that group as well. If you deal from that group of players, how much success do you have from the guys who come up and take those spots? Mm-hmm. So can Heston Kjerstad return and get back to form because he takes the ABs that would have gone to Laureano or O'Hearn? Or is it that Dylan Beavers comes up and has success? Like, either way, if one of them plays well down the stretch, I think you call that a success for guys filling in. You find another reliever, whether it's via one of those trades or because Kittredge and Dominguez and Soto get dealt, and maybe you move someone like Brian Baker too because his value's super high right now. You open a lot of spots in the bullpen, and someone like Cade Stroud or Colin Selby or Chase McDermott come up and just look like a monster out of the bullpen for the last month and a half, and you're like, you can pencil him into the 6th inning or the 7th inning next year. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a win. It's the guys who are filling in after the deadline. It's going to be not as much about wins and losses. It's going to be more about, can those guys look like a bullpen and a team that can win next year? And I really look at it like the 2016 Yankees. The 2016 Yankees were not a bad team at all. They were not necessarily a good team. They kind of looked like a slightly better version of what the Orioles look like right now, where you can see the talent. They'll have some awesome wins. They'll have some weird losses, and it's getting pretty clear they're not going to the postseason in the AL East. So at the deadline, they kind of sold away their rentals. They got Gleyber Torres for Aroldis Chapman, which was a great trade for them. And they sold away a couple other guys, but they actually played better after the trade deadline. They never really got fully back into the playoff race, but they finished over 500 by a couple of games. They won more games in August and September. They looked like a complete team. They made a couple additions in the offseason, and they went to the ALCS in 2017. That is what, obviously, if the Orioles in the ALCS in 2026, that's a win. That is a gigantic win. We will all take that. Even if it ends in a loss in that series, we will all take that. But the ability to kind of just not rebuild, just kind of retool the roster a little bit and right. take some guys in, push some guys out, and then play better, more meaningful baseball in the second half, even if it didn't mean they were going to the postseason, I think set them up well for the next season. And those are the two things I'd like to see. Just playing a little better, a little cleaner, and then some success from the guys who step in for those who are traded at the deadline.
Got you.
I'd love to package O'Hearn and Mullins and get like a top pitching prospect. I know like Phillies, for example, like we could get Mick Abel for Mullins and I don't know, throw in a reliever. Like that would be dream scenario.
Yeah, it's tough to package two hitters sometimes. I see them more packaging one hitter with one of the pitchers to try and get something better, like doing an O'Hearn plus Morton deal, or a Mullins plus Dominguez deal or something like that, where a team, because a lot of teams that are really on the brink, there's not many of them that need two bats. If you really need two bats, it's going to be tough for you to get to where you are now. Like maybe the Brewers are like the only team where it's like, yeah, they could use two bats and they're also a legitimate playoff team. The Royals could use four bats, but that's why they're now like 7 games under 500. They've fallen apart because they have zero offense. But a team like the Phillies, Mullins, and then if they wanted to get their old friend Sir Anthony Dominguez back, like they need bullpen help and they need a center fielder, that's something where you could package it and maybe potentially get a legitimate prospect.
God, they ran that guy out of town. But okay, Ryan O'Hearn and Cedric Mullins for the Miz. Who says no? It's like, I'm kidding. Jordan, what's your last question before we get into our segment, bro?
So this last question is kind of pertaining to the previous question. Curious to see what your answer would be, given your answer to the last question. So given the state of the O's this season, do you think that it would be beneficial in any sort of way to bring back Kyle Bradish, Tyler Wells, or Grayson Rodriguez?
Yeah, you mean just to get him pitching this year at some point? I mean, it obviously depends on their health. I'm not a doctor, and I can't see their medicals right now, so who knows? I think, for Bradish and Wells, I think it would be important if the rehab is going fine, which it is. Neither of them have had any setbacks. The only setbacks either of them have had is that Tyler Wells' wife had a baby, so he had to pause his rehab for a little bit. That is the only setback either has had, and you will take that. Like, that is fantastic rehab for both of them so far. So they are both on pace, it looks like, to be back in the big leagues at some point in August, if they're good. Now, Jordan, if it really crumbles and they're 20 games under,
then that's definitely.
Bradish could be ready by August 20th. Is it really worth it? I think what they would do is they'd put him on the roster and they'd be like super careful. Bradish would never do a real start for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. You could piggyback the two of them. Bradish 3 innings, Wells 3 innings, go to the bullpen. And do that a couple of times in September just to get them back on a big... What I would like for them to do is be able to get back on a big league mound, throw big league pitches, feel what it's like to warm up for and start a game, maybe be able to get through the lineup twice, go 3 or maybe 4 innings, but you don't have to push them through 6 or 7 when it's clearly not happening this year. But I think that's important because even we saw with Felix Bautista, like, there was that little murmur, like, could he come back at the end of last year? It was never really a possibility, but he was throwing enough bullpens where you started to think if the O's got to the World Series, like, maybe Felix Bautista could come back. Instead, we know they didn't, and he got this whole offseason where he was healthy, right? He was pretty much recovered from the elbow surgery. He had a normal, it was a little delayed, but a pretty normal offseason, a little delayed spring training, but it was fairly normal, and it still took him a while to get back to it, even though he had all this extra time. What I don't want is for that to happen to Bradish or Wells, where they really shut it down. They just say, you're going to be back in September. It's just not worth it. Let's just power it down, give you a full off season. That means they're not really getting back on that big league mound until next year. And as much as spring training can help you, it's not the same as getting out there for a game that counts. And so what I want to see is just, even if the O's are out of it and it takes longer, just both of them in September, starting games, pitching 2 or 3 or 4 innings, just a couple of times to shake the rust off, get back in the groove, and then it can really feel like a normal offseason, because then you're like, wow, I have stats from this year. I pitched in actual games this year.
Yeah.
I can do my regular routine instead of it being like, well, are they still in injury recovery because they never actually pitched in a game? I think that would be more helpful for the both of them to just get a few outings. But I will say, if there's a possibility that's like, hey, August 15th, Bradish could be back, and it's like, we might push him a little bit to get him back. No. If this team is out of it, no. Like, have it take as long as it takes. There should be no pushing either of those guys to get back. And if it takes long enough where they don't return, I guess that is what it is, and we'll see them next year. But if there's no more rehab for them to do, and they've made rehab starts, and they're good to go, let's get them out on the mound, at least feel the baseball, throw some pitches, feel what it's like to strike a guy out, give up a homer, to just kind of go through all of it when it doesn't matter. So then when they get back on the mound next April and we've kind of reset this whole thing and hopefully the Orioles have spent some money and it does matter again, they can, in whatever role, especially for Tyler Wells, kind of unsure what he would look like, reliever or starter next year, but in whatever role,
that's my
get
guess.
him in there. And that's the other thing with Wells. I would like for him to pitch in both roles before this season ends. I would like for him to start a couple of games. I'd like for him to come in relief in a couple of games, because depending on the offseason is really going to depend what his role is going into 2026. I'd like to get him getting the feel back for both of those things before the season ends as well.
Yeah, I was firmly in the camp of I don't want to see either of them or Grayson this year just because of how injury struck this team was, but you talked me into it. Okay, I would be cool with that, but initially
Grayson's
I was like
a little different because we don't really know about Grayson right now. Like, for Wells and Bradish, there's a timeline of what Tommy John surgery takes. They're on it right now. We know what the recovery looks like. It can be different for some guys, but generally they're on the upswing. For Grayson, it's just kind of like he's thrown some bullpens and he's had 3 different injuries. What I worry about Grayson is, if you remember what happened to Dylan Tate a couple of years ago.
Oh my God, don't say that.
He was injured and he never got surgery. He never got Tommy John, but it was some sort of forearm and elbow thing, and he just kept getting pushed back, and eventually he missed all the 2023 season because they were just like, he ran out of time to come back. And they were like, okay, he'll get a full off season. He'll be a nice part of our bullpen next year. Dylan Tate was out of the organization by, the All-Star break last season?
Yeah.
Because he never returned to form. Now, Grayson is coming from a much higher mountain than Dylan Tate was in terms of having this happen, so the fall shouldn't take him to as low of a spot. But I've said it on my show once already, so I've at least put it into the ether once, so I feel okay with saying it again.
Yeah, I chose to ignore it.
Get out there for the first time. But I just worry about that a little bit. But Grayson's different. Like, if there's still issues happening, we don't know what a timeline for him looks like. So he could pop up in a rehab game in Aberdeen in 2 weeks. He could not pitch again this year. We just kind of have no idea at this point.
Yeah, I'm in the camp of just F it, just shut it down. I'm over it. If we're not making the playoffs, it's not worth it to make it a worse injury. But all right, Connor. So we've had a new segment that we've installed over the past month and some change. Would you say, Jordan? Within the past month?
Yeah.
And so you are actually the first guest that gets to play it. So it is called "Throw a Flag on the Take" when you hear a player better than blank.
And I'm definitely interested to see his perspective.
Oh yeah. So with your big baseball brain and the fact that you cover the Orioles every day, I felt it was only fitting. So I wore the shirt. It is the Colton Cowser edition for our man Connor. So Connor, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So the rules are simple. So view it as a 1-year rental. So you're not viewing it as their potential, like what they could be in 3 years. It is for this specific season, how they are playing this season. If you would rather have Colton Cowser or this player, how they're playing for this particular season. 1 season rental. So number 1 is like if you said that you would rather have this player, I would say you might need to get your head checked. And number 10, if you say that you would rather have Cowser, I'd be like, okay, it's a little bit of Homer speaking. So just a little perspective. So we started off nice and light. So first up is Evan Carter from the Rangers.
Maybe one day. Not this year. Maybe one day. He can be better than Cowser. But
All right, so Connor's keeping his flag. Jordan?
I don't know too much about him. So I'm definitely keeping my flag. Yeah, I'm keeping my flag.
I guess that says enough. Now, this next one is kind of sneaky because he's been playing a little bit better than I thought he was, but he's actually just on our heater right now, so his stats are a little elevated. But Sal Frelick from the Brewers.
No,
Connor's holding his flag.
I was in for the Orioles to draft Sal Frelick a couple of years ago if it came to that, but the one big difference is he's a good player, good defense, just like Cowser, just no pop, no power.
Zero.
Cowser gives you that, which just puts him over the top.
Jordan?
I'm trusting Connor on this one.
All right, moving on to number 3. So this is where it starts to pick up. Number 3, Ian Happ from the Cubs.
Okay, I think I know
A little
this
bit
guy.
better of a player.
I think I know this guy.
What you got, Jordan?
I think I know this guy.
Well, let's hear it.
Hold up.
Putting you on the spot.
I do know him.
Man,
You know me, I'm a homer, so I'm still going to keep my flag.
Atta baby. Good job,
yeah,
Jordan.
Yep.
Connor?
This is tough. Ian Happ has been like a cornerstone of my fantasy baseball teams for years and years. He's not a star at all, but all he does is post. Best ability is availability. He shows up every day, hits in the top 5 of their order, and produces. But I will stay with Cowser only because Happ is in the midst right now of probably his worst big league season. So there is a point where he's probably, he's hit 30. He might be declining a little bit. I know we're just doing it for 1 year, but he is statistically been worse than Cowser this year, and because he's in the midst. If he was not in the midst of his worst season, I think I might take Happ, but I'm going to stick with Cowser.
Whew, that would have been the earliest flag thrown in the whole series.
Yeah. Was it 3? We're at 3? Yeah.
4 was the earliest, and that's just because Luke's a homer. One of our
I was about to say
hops on from
he's a
time to
Pirates
time.
fan.
I
Yeah.
put a Pirates player in there. He immediately threw it. I'm like,
Yeah.
he said he would rather have. Now this was back when which edition was it that he did it? Who was the player? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I don't.
It was an outfielder. I know it wasn't.
Was it Adam Frazier? He took Adam Frazier over everybody.
No. It was not that bad. Oh, he took Brian Reynolds over Julio Rodriguez.
Come on.
That's it. And he was like very like.
Nah, he was like, yeah, he was pumped about it.
He thought we were crazy. Yeah. But this is also a guy who thought the Pirates were winning 90 games this year.
Yeah.
Love you, Luke. All right, moving on to number 4. Now, this guy also, you could say, has also been a really solid player, but is also having the worst statistical season of his career. Jose Altuve. I know he's lit it up lately, but that defense, I mean, he was like Heston Kjerstad out there when he first got out to left field. He should have never been in left field, first off. But he's technically a left fielder now, so I threw him in here.
Yeah, I guess if you're saying how they're playing right now, again, he's been hitting a little better, but he is also, and this is even more so than Happ. Happ's just kind of down and having Altuve, it's not even close. He is having by far and away the worst season of his career. Again, if you would have asked me this question last year, even as Cowser was in the midst of one of his good months, I would have said Altuve is better. But again, he's 35 now. He can't really play the outfield, even though they stuck him out there. It's because he also can't really play second at this point. And he's still hitting homers, but he's just not hitting for average anymore, which is something you kind of need from Jose Altuve. So
yeah,
this is where I feel homer because I don't know. Is Altuve a? Yeah, Altuve's a Hall of Famer probably.
No, he's not.
he at this point, he's a 60 WAR player for his career. I mean, that's right around where you're looking at Hall of Fame guys. I mean, I think he'll get hurt by the trash cans, but just statistically, I think he's a Hall of Famer. That will be a whole. I am so intrigued when we start to really see.
I can't wait.
It's kind of already happened, right? Because Beltran was on the ballot for the first time this year.
Yeah,
and that was his final season, and he's a Hall of Famer statistically, but it's already started with him. But when it really gets to the guys where it's like, you had 18 years of Carlos Beltran and then one of the trash can stuff when he was 40. For Altuve, it's like, how long were they doing it in the middle of his prime? It's going to be really, really interesting. I'm still going to take Cowser because it is truly this year, and Altuve has just not been the same player this year. He has clearly, I think, hit the wall and is starting to again, he's still a fine player, but he's not the all-star level player he once was.
My man. Jordan?
I'm going to keep the flag, and I say... I've just, like I said, I love hearing Connor speak about it because it's very analytical about things. You can just tell that he has like such passion for the game. So again, Connor, I appreciate you coming on here. I just want to give you flowers.
Yeah, he's our baseball expert.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep the flag without making it long-winded.
Am I gonna be the guy that's leading the? I'm gonna be the one guy leading the Jose Altuve Hall of Fame train.
And I'm gonna be leading the other train.
He'll be booing me as I lead the Altuve and Carlos Beltran and, well, it depends on how the rest of Correa's career goes on. I'm not sure he's on that track anymore. And Bregman, definitely. I mean, player-wise, yes, give it to me. Like, I love Michael Brantley. I don't know how involved he was with all that, but he's not a Hall of Famer, but he was an awesome player. But yeah, I would put Jose Altuve in the Hall of Fame even with all of that, but that is not what this segment's about. So I will cede to the next player.
I hold a huge grudge for people that like ruin the integrity of the game. I know this is just a very quick tangent, but yeah, so a very huge grudge, like the steroid guys. Like I'm like, not really, but straight up cheat. Nah, hell no, you're not getting in on my ballot. But moving on to number 5, the aforementioned Brian Reynolds. I had to put him on here for Luke listening.
Brian Reynolds. He's such he's just Ian Happ also. I feel
so streaky. He's so streaky.
That's a slightly younger version of Ian Happ. You've done a great job, I will say, Cole, of picking players who in previous years would be closer to slam dunk better than Cowser, but they're all having bad seasons. I mean, you want to talk about Happ and Altuve having the worst years of their career. Reynolds is having the worst year of his career while also kind of being close to actively bad. Like, those other two guys have just been not as good as they used to be. I'd still take Cowser if we're going off of 2025, who I want in the lineup right now. Brian Reynolds is not pulling up Fangraphs, is not giving the Pirates much right now. He's striking out more than you're used to. I'll take Cowser. It helps that Cowser came off the IL and just went scorched earth for the entirety of June and was awesome. I think that's helping here as well.
Yeah, definitely. He's playing like up to his standard. But yeah, I do a lot of research before the pod. So you saying that, I really appreciate that. Thank you, Jordan.
You're it's basically the list is like underperforming left fielders right now. What we've gotten.
It's about to heat up. That was the last one before we really start taking off.
I'm gonna say keep my flag. Definitely a homer. Pardon my brevity, just for the sake of time, and I'd rather hear what Connor has to say. So let's keep it rolling.
Okay. Yeah. So number 6, Lawrence Butler of the Athletics. I think him and Cowser are like neck and neck. Yeah. I know he's a right fielder by trade, but I mean, I thought he'd be good. I thought he'd be good for the debate.
I'll take Lawrence Butler. I'm going to throw my flag. Okay.
Oh, we got one. We got one.
Yeah. And he's and I will say he's not having the season he was last year. He was like bursting onto the scene last year, and he's taken a step back. But I just think everything he brings as a player is honestly kind of a similar type player to Colton Cowser. But I'm kind of in the tank for Lawrence Butler, so I'm going to take him.
Oh, yeah, dude. I'm very high on Lawrence Butler. I think that guy is legit. So the fact that the A's actually paid him, that's how you know he's good. But moving on, so hearing your take on Sal Frelick was very interesting because this player is a carbon copy, just like if Sal Frelick is like a 4-star, like this guy's a 5-star. Stephen Kwan.
I'm taking Stephen Kwan over Cowser every day of the week. That's an easy one for me. I mean, Gold Glove left fielder.
Really?
the ability to get on base. I think, and some of this is because if you put Stephen Kwan at the top of this Orioles order right now, like this season might be going very, very differently. So I will take Stephen Kwan.
Jordan?
You know who I'm going with.
Yeah. So I thought the Kwan thing was interesting because they're like both like Gold Glove level defenders. So do you prefer more pop or more contact? So I was very intrigued to hear that. This next one is you're not getting any defense, but this bat is significantly better. Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, I'm taking Schwarber. Yeah. Schwarber.
Really?
Schwarber. Oh yeah. I mean, you want to talk about a guy you're going to put into a lineup that's going to incite fear into opposing pitchers. Cowser doesn't do that yet. He might get to that at one point, but I mean, Kyle Schwarber has just been a menace for years, and he continues to be one. I'll take Schwarber.
Even though he's Gary the Snail in left field, you still would take him?
I wouldn't even put him in left field. He's a DH, but I'm still going to take him. Yeah.
Oh, a little loophole. Okay, I'll let you have it. Jordan?
I'm going Schwarber.
Okay.
Again, somebody else I actually know just a little bit. At least like the name, and I get the gist of it.
Dude's got 25 bombs in 84 games. Give me Schwarber.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's fair. So I might have got a little too hot in the middle then because you guys are making it rain on Cowser right now. And this next one, number 9, I'm almost certain you're going to take him too. Riley Green of the Tigers.
Yes, Riley Green.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm taking over Colton Cowser. Talk about a breakout player. This is the guy looking like not a superstar yet, but he's pushing his way towards that this season.
Yeah, 9 and 10. Like I expect you to take the player over the addition player. Jordan, I'm assuming you're taking him as well. Number 10. I just literally only put this player on the list just because I want to hear your opinion on him. James Wood.
Oh yeah, James Wood is going to be by this time next year. I think one of the 10 best players in Major League Baseball. If he's not already right now, I think James Wood is so good already, and there is still stuff to unlock in his game. He still hits the ball on the ground too much. He still hits the ball to the opposite field too much. If he starts to pull some more fly balls, he's got like close to O'Neal Cruz, Giancarlo Stanton level power, except he's got much better bat-to-ball skills than both of those guys. Again, it's the crazy Juan Soto trade of like the Nats did about as well as you could trading away Juan Soto with the guys they got back, including James Wood. And guess what? They still stink. Like, they got awesome players. Mackenzie Gore has been awesome. He looks like their ace, but he's a free agent. He's like a free agent in 2 years, Mackenzie Gore is. They've waited so long to be good, they're going to have to trade Mackenzie Gore before they get to their next good Nationals team. So they got some good players. I like C.J. Abrams, as long as he's out of the casino by midnight. I think but James Wood is a legit, like, could be. He's not going to be Juan Soto, but in terms of star level while on the Nationals, if that team can ever figure out how to get back to the playoffs, he will be at that level of fame. He will not be as good. I don't think he'll ever be as good as Juan Soto. That's a pretty high bar to clear. But James Wood is like, he should be an all-star this year. He's going to be the award they should create, which is the non-Ohtani Judge MVP, because those guys should just get it every year. I think like James Wood could be the winner of the non-Ohtani NL MVP award in the next year or two.
And Big Dumper needs to be the non-Judge AL MVP as well.
He'll get it this year, yeah.
Man, you guys put a pounding on Cowser. 5 out of 10 flags. Woo! But Jordan, put that James Wood thing on a quote card. Write that down. But Connor, you've been extremely graceful with your time. We're very grateful for that as well. You are a baseball expert, so anytime we would love to have you on as well. You provide such great insight. And if you've listened this far, please make sure you check out Locked On Orioles. Connor is available anywhere that you find us. You can find Connor as well. So please do that if you enjoy Orioles content or just Connor himself.
Yeah, I think they're doing it for the Orioles content. Maybe not just for that, but for the Orioles. The things that come out of my mouth, I'll take it for. But I'm all right. Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Well, Jordan, you got anything left to say to the people before we get out of here?
First and foremost, we appreciate you, Connor. As always, like I said, you're very analytical. Just love the way you approach things, and always love having you on. To the people, we thank you. Please like, comment, subscribe. It's free, so please do it. But that's all I got.
All right, flag throwers, you know how we end this.
We're not going to apologize for winning.
No, we are not. We will see you all later in the week. See ya.